Did you know that in ancient Levitical times, gluttony was punishable by death? Deuteronomy 21:20-21 says, "And they shall say unto the elders of his city, This our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. And all the men of his city shall stone him with stones, that he die. So shalt thou put evil away from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear." We also know that in ancient Israelites' wanderings in the wilderness, they were struck down by God with a plague after they sinned by overindulgence in flesh meat. What a serious punishment for what seems like such a mild offense. But today, nearly 3,500 years later, gluttony still kills. In fact, our lack of self-control in various areas is directly correlated with illness and disease. My name is Valerie Karvetsky, and I am a nurse practitioner that specializes in adult health and primary care. One of the main focuses of primary care is preventing disease. And yes, exercising self-control and achieving a lifestyle of balance is crucial to keeping yourself healthy and thus optimizing your immune health. Yet today, the idea of self-control is not an easy one in our age of self-pleasing excess. Placing limits or saying no to oneself is not considered conducive to happiness, and no wonder. Self-control is defined as restraint, exercised over one's own impulses, emotions, or desires. That is hard work, and sadly most of us are looking for an easy route to health and happiness. But you know the old adage, anything worth having is worth working for. And self-control works, not just for our health, as we'll discuss in the next few minutes, but for our happiness too. Research has shown that people are happier when they are the origin of their behavior or live with intentionality. And studies have also found that individuals with more self-control have fewer mental health symptoms. No wonder John Milton, an English poet, once said, "He who reigns within himself and rules his passions, desires, and fears is more than a king." In order to better understand how self-control contributes to our health and why the lack of self-control is deadly, we have to look at areas in our life where we sometimes overdo it. And many of these areas are not bad in and of themselves. While this is not going to be an all-inclusive list, we will briefly look at self-restraint as it applies to some important areas: screen time, work, exercise, sleep, and eating. As a side note, I will not cover alcohol and tobacco in this discussion, as modern medicine has already established the link between those substances and disease, and I feel these require complete abstinence and not moderation. Let's start with screen time. Technology in itself is not a bad thing. In fact, the advent of screens have given us capabilities that were unthinkable just 20 years ago. But even good things can become harmful when carried to excess. Studies have found an association between social media and television with symptoms of depression. This doesn't even take into consideration the effects screen time can have on our sleep, particularly when used late in the day and prior to bedtime. If you're curious how many screen hours you log weekly, consider a brief check of your smartphone's screen time feature. Then add on to that any additional time you are on your tablet, computer, or television. You'll be surprised at how those hours can add up. But not only is it easy to lack control during our leisure time, we also as a society struggle with self-control when we work. Our American culture is known for its profound work ethic, and while for some the problem lies in a lack of desire to work, others have difficulty in knowing when to slow down and rest. Overwork can kill. There's evidence that shows an association between working long hours, or 55 or more hours per week, and an increased incidence of heart disease and stroke. It may not be just the work itself, but the stress that seems to come with it. And it's not just logging in hours at the office. How many of us have trouble winding down at the end of the day, while scrambling to finish one more task on our to-do list. Whether we work at home or outside the home, we never seem to get our work all done. And it is in those moments that we need to exercise self-control, take a deep breath, and make time for rest. Slow down after 7 to 8 p.m. and make time for family and personal devotions, even if this means leaving some things undone. There is a real push in health education to exercise more, and rightly so. Many of us could benefit from more physical activity. But there can be too much of a good thing, just like with work. With exercise, there is a threshold beyond which more is not better, or does not equate to increased health benefits. A study published in the Journal of the American Academy of Cardiology found a U-shaped association between amount of jogging and all-cause mortality. What this means is that light joggers had a lower risk of death than sedentary people who didn't jog. However, the mortality rate of strenuous joggers was no different from those who didn't jog at all. Can you believe it? Those who jogged excessively had the same rate of death as the sedentary folks. It really shows that moderation in all things is where we find the balance necessary for health. Now, with eating, the principles of self-control are more obvious. Overeating has been a problem for mankind since the beginning of time. Its roots are a basic lack of self-control or temperance. Our dinner plates today are estimated to be about 25% larger than they were in the early 1900s, and we live in a supersized culture. Along with that has come the rise that we see in obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and cancers. Eating can be a real struggle, and a lot of us worry about what we should eat. But even those who eat a healthy, plant-based diet can engage in unhealthy eating habits by overeating or eating excessive amounts of a certain food. So how much should I eat, and when should I stop? The Okinawan people in Japan are known for their longevity as some of the healthiest centenarians on earth. They follow a practice called hara-hachi-bu, the practice of eating until you are 80% full. This concept is unheard of even in the Western world. But even ancient Solomon, the wise man, gives us the secret of self-control when it comes to food. Hast thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith and vomit it. Proverbs 25:16. Those are strong words, but remember, I said that the self-control lifestyle is not always an easy one, but it is a worthwhile one. The last area that we are going to look at is the area of sleep and how a lack of restraint or balance here can be detrimental. The National Sleep Foundation recommends 7 to 9 hours of sleep for healthy adults. As with the other lifestyle practices we have reviewed, there is also a need to balance our sleep, and more may not be better. A study out of Finland found that sleep durations of more than 9 hours nightly was associated with increased inflammation in the body. Further research has also suggested that sleep outside of the 6 to 8 hour range may be associated with increased risk of death and cardiovascular issues. Our focus really should be on the quality of sleep more than its duration. We often feel tired not because we didn't sleep long enough, but because our sleep quality was poor. So, if you frequently feel unrested upon awakening, you may want to discuss this with your healthcare provider. There are some medical conditions that can contribute to poor sleep quality. Sleep, work, exercise, many of these things are good, and if overindulgence in them can be so detrimental, imagine what a lack of self-control in areas we know are bad for us can lead to. We all want to be healthier, live longer, and prevent disease. And beginning with self-control is a good place to start. Let's go over some simple strategies to implement self-control in your life. The first is to identify the problem. If you're not sure where you're lacking self-control, consider asking a family member or close friend. They can often see the imbalance in your life better than you do. Also, ask God for help. Say, Lord, show me the areas in my life that are out of balance. The second step is to give away the problem. Give the problem to God every morning and throughout the day. When you're tempted to excess, you will need outside strength to overcome your natural tendencies. Pray for His Holy Spirit to cultivate the fruit of temperance in your life. I then want you to set some goals. Set an achievable and specific goal to your area of struggle. Next, remove temptation. For example, if you're struggling with screen time, consider leaving your phone in another room or turning it off after 8 p.m. If you have difficulty controlling your intake of sweets, don't purchase them until you feel confident that you can eat them in moderation. Lastly, be positive. Oftentimes when we are struggling with an area, we have a lot of negative thinking surrounding it. The next time you are struggling and thinking, I can't do this, it's too hard, remember Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Each time you resist the urge makes resisting easier the next time. During these uncertain times, we all want to maximize our general health and, of course, reap those benefits towards our immune health. There is no magic pill or potion for health or longevity. Neither is there an easy path or single practice that guarantees health. It's a group of lifestyle factors united in balance where we find true well-being. The key to this lifestyle is the practice of self-control. I hope you found this introduction to self-control helpful, and take some time for self-reflection to begin this journey in your life.